Hello and welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones and we are so glad to have you here. Today we are going to be focusing on New Jersey's U.S. Senate race. I'm going to take a deep dive with the candidates, Democrat Congressman Andy Kim and Republican Curtis Bashaw. We are dedicating a full episode to each candidate so they have equal time and an equal opportunity to talk about their candidacy. We flipped a coin to see who goes first, and today we're going to be speaking with Republican candidate Curtis Bashaw. Next week you can see our interview with Democrat Andy Kim. Curtis Bashaw is an entrepreneur and the founding and managing partner of Cape Resorts, with multiple resorts here in New Jersey, including the famous Congress Hall. Curtis Bashaw, welcome to the show. It is so good to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks, Laura. It's great to be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just start with a little background for people who may not know you yet. You are a Jersey guy, so tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got into the race.
Well, I am a lifelong New Jerseyan. I grew up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and worked summers at the Jersey Shore, starting when I was 15 years old in hospitality. My family, many of them live in Bergen County now, and I live in Cape May. I went back to Cape May after college and started a little hotel called the Virginia in an old historic building in 1989 with about 25 employees. And we built that up over many years through the renovation of Congress Hall and the Beach Shack, Beach Plum Farm. Today we have about 1,115 employees amongst multiple properties, including 2 properties out on eastern Long Island. So I'm a political outsider. I'm a businessman. I'm someone that likes to build things, restore things, get things done. I built my business, payroll by payroll, budget by budget, brick by brick, and navigated a lot of hurdles along the way. But I watched what the enterprise did in creating jobs, in expanding our local economy. So I'm really a fiscal conservative. I got into this race in part because I believe we need more political outsiders and business people in Washington. Our politics have been very divided and sometimes acrimonious, and I think New Jerseyans are hungry to get things done. Another motivator to me in joining this race is that we are 49 out of 50 states in what we get back from the federal government. I think we can do better. We've been a donor state, an extreme donor state, for far too long. In addition, my opponent, Bob Menendez, the corruption scandal that engulfed him for the second time was a third impetus for me to get into the race. He seemed to be more interested in his own interests than those of the state of New Jersey. And then when the governor's wife thought she should just have the seat, that was an insider deal. So I think we need political outsiders, not DC insiders. Andy Kim has served his entire career in Washington. He's gotten a government paycheck. I've signed the front side of paychecks for over 1,000 people every 2 weeks for a long, long, long time. And so that contrast and the importance to me of restoring integrity to this office and actually getting things done for New Jerseyans is a big reason. I did government service a few times. I was asked in 2004 by a Democratic governor, Jim McGreevey, to run the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority in Atlantic City. That was on the heels of this successful renovation and reactivation of Congress Hall, which had been abandoned. And I went to Atlantic City and I worked with Democrats. I worked with Republicans. I worked with mayors, commissioners, all kinds of state agencies. I got to know New Jersey, but I also learned how to work on both sides of the aisle. And so I think we need that sort of can-do attitude about getting things done for New Jerseyans. We need to let the air out of our politics, and we need some political outsiders and business people going to Washington to represent us.
Well, I mean, and that is an excellent point, because in order to get things done, you have to be able to know how to work both sides of the aisles. Jim McGreevey is a Democrat. You were successful there. Can you talk a little bit about, again, because you're talking about an outsider coming in. It's also been 50 years since a Republican has been represented in the U.S. Senate there's been a Republican in the U.S. Senate. So can you talk a little bit about that? New Jersey is a very blue state. So can you talk about some of the obstacles that you're facing, or perhaps, you know, what you're hearing on the campaign trail from both sides of the aisle? Because again, it has been, you know, 50 years since a Republican has held a seat in the U.S. Senate from New Jersey.
Laura, it has been, and we're all mindful of that milestone. There's been a Democratic monopoly on this Senate seat for half a century. And the fact that we're 49th in what we get back out of 50 states from the federal government, I think is telling as it relates to the efficacy of that Democratic monopoly. You know, just because something hasn't happened in a long time doesn't mean it can't happen again. And I like to win. I got into this race after doing due diligence and research and understanding that New Jerseyans are hungry for change. New Jersey is blue, purple, I would say, but it's not extreme. New Jersey Democrats are moderate. And Andy Kim is one of the most extreme candidates we've ever had run for U.S. Senate. He's a member of the Progressive Caucus. He's voted 100% of the time with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And so the contrast to somebody like me, I feel like I'm driving up the center of the turnpike here, and he's so far to the left that he wouldn't know where that center lane is. I believe that there's an opportunity to win because the issues that our polling is showing to us is that New Jerseyans are worried most and importantly about inflation, affordability. They are tired of feeling like we are overburdened with too much taxation. They can't afford their gas payments because of our energy policies. They can't afford food. I believe we can't spend our way to prosperity, which is what the Democrats are proposing even to do just now. I think we need fiscal responsibility. New Jerseyans want to believe that they can build a life here, that they will find jobs here, that their kids won't move to North Carolina or some other state, and that the grandkids will end up out of state. People love New Jersey. They want the affordability back. The second issue that was resounding in our poll was that New Jerseyans are tired of the corruption and the inefficiency coming out of Washington. They want someone who's a doer, who can get things done, not a conformist that just 100% of the time votes down the line with their party. The third issue that was really resonating, particularly in the northern part of our state, is border security and law enforcement and these crazy bail reforms that we've had in the past few years. People want to feel safe and secure in their communities. Andy Kim is soft on the border. I think we should close it right away. We need to separate border security from immigration policy. And what I mean by that came clear to me when I was standing in an unfinished section of the wall in Yuma, Arizona about 6 weeks ago. I watched between 12:30 and 3 in the morning 62 people walk into our country from China, from Syria, from Ecuador, Venezuela. We've just had this Venezuelan gang out there in Colorado take over an apartment building. And it dawned on me that we've politicized border security because we don't agree on immigration policy. To me, it's pretty simple. A country has a boundary. That boundary is called a border. It can't be a country without that boundary. There's ports of entry into the country, and they should be lockable. I lock my back door at night when I go to bed. If someone rings the doorbell, you may invite them in. We need to be able to know who's coming into our country because our border is secure. That's separate from immigration policy. How many, from where, for what reason? I am pro-immigration. We're a state of immigration, an immigration state. We're one of the most diverse states. My workforce at our hotels, probably about 1/3 are first or second generation Americans who came legally. They went through a process. One of the greatest honors of my life was in 2016. It was the 200th anniversary of Congress Hall, that beloved hotel we renovated in Cape May. We were asked to host the naturalization ceremony for our county that spring in honor of that anniversary, and we said, of course, yes. What surprised me is the day of the ceremony, the judges swore me in as an honorary judge so that I could administer the oath of citizenship to the 3 employees that were naturalizing that day. What an honor! And to hear how they understood our civics. And many of them have gone on to start businesses, raise their families. I think immigration is a bedrock value of our country, but it needs to be safe, and it needs to be efficient. So those issues are the ones that are resonating with New Jersey voters, and that's why I know we're going to win this race this fall. Even though it's been 52 years, this
Yeah.
is the year it's going to happen.
Well, I want to take a step back also. During COVID, a lot of small businesses were struggling because of the government mandated shutdowns. You were very outspoken. How can government, as a business owner, how can government do a better job at supporting small businesses, and what would be your focus when it comes to that in DC, given your business experience in running hotels in New Jersey?
Well, I thank you for that question. I am a small business person that grew over 35 years to having 1,100 employees. I started with 25. I know what a struggle it is to make a payroll every 2 weeks, how the responsibility that that brings with. But I've also seen the joy of expanding an enterprise and taking the capital that we earn and reinvesting it in growth. I don't think that we can spend our way into prosperity. And I think that the policies of the Democrats of another trillion 7, we're going to give away stuff. Small businesses need to be unshackled from burdensome one size fits all regulations. We can pass regulations that work for big corporations because they have lobbyists, but the small businesses are voiceless. I want to get involved in the Small Business and Entrepreneurial Committee of the Senate. I want to be a voice for small business. I also take umbrage on behalf of small businesses when people like Andy Kim say that, we're going to make sure businesses pay their fair share, as if he has some divine knowledge of what fair is. I will tell you, most small business people I know are the backbones of their communities. They're supporting the civic organizations in their town. They're contributors. They're helping in the schools and the PTAs, and they're on the front lines of the economy. I work for the 1,000 people that work for me. And what we do together is create a micro economy that pays for the rent or mortgage payments of 800 families, the food that they buy, clothing, vacations, college tuitions. Together we get to do that, and we collect and pay taxes to the government that fund people like Andy Kim and these career politicians that spend their life opining on what we should do. I think that we need outside voices. I want to be a voice for small business. I think we have to get at inflation by being fiscally responsible, not printing more money. And I think we need to unburden small businesses from too much regulation.
So if you're elected, you would become the first Republican elected in 50 years. And also, from a personal level, and you've talked about this, you would be New Jersey's first openly gay U.S. Senator. So do you feel like you would be a voice to that community in Washington, D.C.?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm a proud member of the LGBTQ plus community. My husband and I have been together for 23 years. We've been married for 3. We remember when marriage equality was passed. That was a major milestone for our civil rights and our country. Our country has made progress through the years because people are willing to stand up and fight for their freedoms. I'm a big freedom guy, and I'll tell you this, I will be caucusing with Republicans as a Republican senator. And I think as an LGBTQ plus person, I will be a fantastic advocate to make sure we hold our party accountable to those basic values of freedom. I don't want to be told what to do in my home. Domestic tranquility is a core value of our nation. And that's why I'm a pro-choice Republican. I would never deign to tell a woman what to do with her conscience and her family. She needs to make decisions with what's best for her with her reproductive health care. And so I'm not a typical Republican. I'm Curtis Bashaw. I'm running this race for all New Jerseyans as a political outsider and a businessman to get stuff done for our state. and to do better than we've been doing under this Democratic monopoly.
Can I just ask a follow-up on that? Because a lot of people think LGBTQIA plus community, they lean left. What is it that drew you to the Republican Party?
You know, my grandfather was a preacher. He was a God and country preacher, and he taught us and instilled in us the values of how blessed we are to live in a country with the freedoms that we have. We have freedom of speech, conscience, assembly, worship, enterprise. Those precious freedoms come with a price. And that is that we have to share them with our neighbor with whom we might not agree all the time. That's America. Freedom is a little bit messy. You know, if you want purity of thought and on economics, a controlled economy, there's lots of countries you can go to. If you want a country with one religion, there's places you can go. But America, we need to give each other space to pursue our American dreams. And so I believe I was drawn to the Republican Party because of those values and because I believe in the free enterprise system. There's no better social program than a job. I love the fact that we got to grow an enterprise. And I think that this race to the bottom that comes when we overspend, print money, make people dependent upon the government is not the solution for growth and prosperity. So I'm a fiscal conservative and I'm a social moderate. I want freedom. I don't want to tell people what to do in their homes, but I believe that we need to harness the opportunity and the ingenuity of our citizens. We need to trust our citizens and not regulate them.
And then also following up on what you mentioned about a woman's right to choose, abortion, it's always in the forefront of elections, especially with the Supreme Court striking down Roe, sending it back to the states. So what role do you think the federal government should be involved in some way when it comes to legalizing abortion to each individual state?
Well, I think that the Supreme Court made an opinion about the constitutionality and federalism. They didn't want to be perceived as legislating from the bench. I will just say this as a pro-choice American, if a law comes before the United States Senate in a bipartisan way to codify a woman's right to choose, I will vote for that. And I will not vote for a federal abortion ban. And this is as clear as I can be on this issue. It's inconvenient for the Democratic narrative that I'm pro-choice, but that's who we are, and that's what we'll vote to defend and protect.
Another issue outside the U.S. When it comes to foreign affairs, what do you think the United States position involvement should be in the Middle East when we're talking about Israel and Palestine?
Look, I think that one, it's very important for us to take care of our homeland. And I believe that we need to close the border and make an investment there to protect us. But I don't think our border stops at our physical border. I think it's bigger than that. We have friends and allies around the world. Israel is our friend in the Middle East. Israel is the only true democracy in the Middle East. They suffered a horrendous attack 11 months ago that killed a lot of people. Proportionately, that would have meant 40,000 people dying in 9/11 for us. And so they have a right to defend themselves. I think it's very hard to negotiate with an opponent whose mission is your annihilation. It's not a good faith negotiation. So I support Israel's right to defend itself. It's a terroristic threat. And I believe that that's important for us, not just because we're allies of Israel, because we don't want to send a signal and have terrorism coming into our homeland again. You can't negotiate with terror. We need to have peace through strength, and that's my position on that issue.
As you're out and about on the campaign trail talking to voters, in New Jersey, we're kind of caught in between the New York and Philadelphia market. You're not always getting the coverage that other states, other areas would give. What are you hearing from the people on the campaign trail? What are the issues that are resonating, right? I mean, we talked about border, we talked about abortion, Middle East, but what are people talking about? Is it cost of living issues? Is it paying bills, or is it some of the bigger issues?
Yeah, I think cost of living is it. It's bread and butter. It's about the economy. These are the kitchen table issues. People are struggling to figure out how to pay for all of the food food prices are so much higher than they used to be. I think people want to be sure that we have discipline to get rid of this inflation. New Jersey is a high tax state, notoriously so. We need to spend more responsibly. I think I'm going to advocate for a repeal of the salt deduction cap. I think that's unfair to New Jersey. We're already 49th in what we get back from the federal government. I think our energy policies in this state and under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have all been short-sighted as it comes to cost. The natural gas costs in New Jersey have gone up 30-40% since the Murphy administration. They stopped the expansion of our gas pipeline and have gone all in with these windmills. I think the windmills are a bad deal for New Jersey. They're a bad deal for the shore economy, and they're a bad deal for the shore environment. That's going to raise our energy costs even further. These issues, these bread and butter issues of affordability in our state are on New Jerseyans' minds, and they're sad about the fact that we don't make as much stuff here, that the job market isn't as strong here. We need to build back our economy, grow our jobs, because people don't want their kids and grandkids leaving the state. They want them to stay here and enjoy what New has to offer and not lose their grandkids down south somewhere. It's a huge conversation point along the campaign trail.
I mean, that's a very, very huge issue. Again, we have some of the best schools in the country, and we're, you know, and I've got a son going into college, another daughter in college. I found it interesting. I didn't see the New Jersey schools really trying to recruit those in-state students, but out of state, you know, they want to pull them away. So, you know, we spend all this money, an exorbitant amount of money, educating our children, and then they leave. Or when people are here and they commit their life to living and working in New Jersey, but they can't afford to retire here. So what do you think that can realistically be done to address these issues? It's too expensive to live here.
We've been on a race to the bottom. New Jersey is an amazing state. We have fantastic infrastructure. We do have among the best schools in the nation. We have had some of the best industrial cores and pharmaceutical business. We need to make sure we are not regulating ourselves to death. That's what I believe we've done in New Jersey under this Democratic monopoly. And I think that's what we've started to do again under the Biden-Harris administration in Washington. We cannot have 4 more years of that. We need to make sure we get back and restore New Jersey to its preeminence. I loved restoring Congress Hall. I love fixing stuff. I love rolling up my sleeves and getting in there to solve problems. And I want to go to Washington to work hard so we are not 49. I want to go to Washington to unpack this transportation debacle between Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. I want to make sure that we're deregulating our businesses. I want to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. And I want to make sure that we secure our border. And then in New Jersey, I am a partisan when it comes to politics. I do think we need to have Republicans back in some control in our legislature. It's just gone crazy these last few years. So I think it's time for change. I think New Jerseyans feel that. They are tired of the status quo. We can't keep sending the same people back to Washington and expect to change. That's why I got into this race, Laura. I'm a political outsider. I don't need to do this for my career. I've had a wonderful career, but I'm doing this because I love New Jersey. I believe we can do better. I love our country. Our country is not perfect, but we've got to stop lacerating ourselves and pulling each other apart. When I think about the founding documents that were written, you know, the Constitution and the Declaration, those core values of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, domestic tranquility, I understand that they were written by a bunch of white gentlemen in Philadelphia, some of whom owned slaves. The words, however, were bigger than they were. And they paved the way for a Susan B. Anthony, a Martin Luther King, a Harvey Milk. Look at the progress we've made, not without a fight. But I believe that our cup is not half empty, it's half full. And I believe that New Jersey's can have a resurgence and a restoration of pride in what we have. We're at the crossroads of the revolution. That's where we were 248 years ago. We're about to celebrate our 250th, and we're not as proud as we should be. I want us to get happy again and to understand what we can accomplish together. And I'm fired up to win this race this fall so we can have a different approach in Washington and get things done for New Jersey.
We have about a minute and a half left, so I will leave you with this question. Why should New Jersey's voters vote for you? Why should they send you to Washington?
Because I'm the guy that's going to get things done. I am a happy warrior. I'm going to go down there and negotiate to get New Jersey its fair share. I'm tired of being 49th. I'm a principled pragmatist. I work with people. When I got Congress Hall done, I had to work with environmentalists, historic preservationists, business contractors, licensees, all these people to get to the same place at the same time. We need to do that in DC. We've got to solve problems. I'm a problem solver as a political outsider and a businessman. I'm not a career politician and a bureaucrat like Andy Kim. I think that contrast is real, and I'm going to work hard for all New Jerseyans to make things better for us here in this state.
Curtis Bashaw, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Laura. Great to be with you today. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. And that's going to do it for today. I'm Laura Jones. Thanks so much for watching New Jersey Politics. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.